Most people underestimate how deeply other humans influence their inner world. They think they're making independent choices driven by their own logic and ambition, but the truth is simpler and more uncomfortable. You absorb the energy of the people you spend the most time with. This is why choose energy, not noise, is one of the most powerful principles for building a peaceful mind and a successful life. The world is already loud. Everyone has opinions, agendas, insecurities, projections. Most people are broadcasting static, very few are broadcasting clarity, and if you don't consciously choose who you let into your mental space, you will inherit their confusion as your own. Energy is subtle but unmistakable. When you spend time with someone who operates from calmness, you feel more grounded. When you spend time with someone who takes responsibility for their life, you naturally start taking responsibility for yours. When you're around someone who thinks clearly, your own thoughts straighten. This isn't magic, it's osmosis. Human beings synchronize with the emotional and cognitive frequencies around them. It's biological, unavoidable, and continuous. So if your environment is filled with noise, chaos, or negativity, staying focused becomes a fight against gravity. You'll lose that fight more often than you win. Noise shows up in many forms: people who gossip, people who complain, people who live in drama loops and pull you in because they don't know how to live without chaos. Some people think aloud constantly and never pause long enough to understand what they're actually saying. Others unload problems but never seek solutions. Noise drains you because it demands attention without offering insight. It's like mental junk food, easy to consume, addictive in the moment, but harmful over time. Energy, on the other hand, is nourishment. People with good energy don't need to talk much. Their presence feels clean. They don't pull you into their storms. They invite you into their clarity. They listen more than they speak, and when they speak with intention. They don't escalate drama, they dissolve it. They don't force their opinions onto you, they offer perspectives. You walk away from conversations with them feeling lighter, more focused, and more aligned with yourself. 1 hour with the right person can be more valuable than a year with the wrong ones. Choosing energy over noise is not about judging others or pretending you're above them. It's about recognizing what your mind needs to stay clear. It's about protecting your emotional bandwidth. You can't build a strong inner world while constantly absorbing outer chaos. You can't think long-term if you're surrounded by people who panic over every small problem. You can't stay disciplined if everyone around you rewards distraction. The people in your life either reinforce your highest self or your lowest patterns. There is no neutral influence. The first step is becoming aware. Pay attention to how you feel after interactions. Do you feel tired, irritated, anxious, heavy? That's noise. Do you feel calm, understood, motivated, or inspired? That's energy. Your body knows the difference long before your mind articulates it. Your emotions are feedback loops. If someone consistently leaves you drained, it is not a coincidence, it is information. Once you see the difference, the second step is creating boundaries. You don't have to cut people off harshly. You simply reduce your exposure to the noisy ones and increase your exposure to the energetic ones. Slowly, your environment shifts. Slowly, your mind quiets, and slowly, you realize that clarity is not something you produce, it's something you protect. The third step is becoming the kind of person whose energy others want to be around. Because energy is reciprocal, you attract what you cultivate. If you're always complaining, you'll collect complainers. If you're always anxious, you'll attract people who amplify that anxiety. But if you cultivate calmness, responsibility, curiosity, and self-respect, you become a magnet for people who operate the same way. High-quality people don't seek noise. They seek peace. They seek depth. They seek alignment. Choosing energy over noise also means being comfortable with solitude. Sometimes the best person to spend time with is yourself. Silence is not empty, it's space. Space to think, to reset, to reconnect with your internal compass. Noise hates silence because silence reveals truth. Many people drown themselves in noise to avoid facing their own thoughts. But if you want a clear life, you need a clear mind, and a clear mind requires a quiet environment, not a crowded one. In the end, choosing energy over noise is an ongoing practice. It's not about having perfect relationships. It's about consciously shaping the emotional ecosystem you live in. When you start choosing people who bring clarity instead of chaos, your life becomes simpler. Your decisions become easier. Your progress becomes faster. The right people don't push you, they elevate you. They make your mind quiet enough to hear your own wisdom, and that's where your real power begins. Most people spend their lives chasing agreement. They want validation, approval, reassurance, someone nodding along to every idea so they feel safe. But agreement is shallow, it's temporary, it's fragile. It changes the moment circumstances change. What actually shapes the quality of your relationships, your decisions, and your peace is alignment, a deeper, quieter connection built on shared values, shared direction, and shared principles. Alignment is not about thinking the same thoughts. It's about moving in the same direction. When you seek agreement, you're asking others to match your opinions. When you seek alignment, you're looking for people who share your world. You, at the foundational level, people who value honesty, who respect boundaries, who want to grow, who think long term, who show up consistently. Agreement is surface level. Alignment is structural. A relationship built on agreement falls apart the moment you disagree. A relationship built on alignment becomes stronger through disagreement because disagreement becomes a tool for refinement, not a weapon. Most conflict in life doesn't come from differences in opinion. It comes from differences in values. If someone values status and you value freedom, every decision will feel like friction. If they prioritize comfort and you prioritize growth, you'll constantly feel held back. If they crave drama and you crave peace, even a simple conversation will feel draining. People often try to force relationships to work by trying to agree more. But the real lever isn't agreement, it's alignment. You don't need someone who thinks like you. You need someone who lives like you. Aligned people understand you even when they disagree with you. They don't attack your character just because you see something differently. They don't get threatened by your growth or your ambition. They don't make you feel guilty for wanting something bigger. With aligned people, disagreements are simply explorations. They push thinking forward instead of pulling emotions backward. You walk away from tough conversations feeling expanded, not diminished. Alignment also brings ease, not laziness ease. There's a difference. A relationship aligned at the values level feels like a current moving in your direction. When you talk, you don't waste energy explaining your intentions. When you plan, you don't fight over priorities. When you dream, you don't apologize for wanting more. Your internal compass and theirs don't contradict each other. You trust their inner world because it mirrors the principles you try to live by. This doesn't mean you're identical. It means your foundations are compatible. Agreement, however, often creates false harmony. Someone who agrees with you all the time might be avoiding conflict, seeking approval, or hiding their true thoughts. Agreement can be a mask. Alignment cannot. Agreement collapses when pressure arrives. Alignment becomes more visible under pressure. Think of teammates in a storm. The ones who are only agreeing with you when the weather was calm will disappear when things get difficult. The ones who are aligned will row with you, not against you. Finding alignment requires paying attention to actions more than words. Anyone can agree with an idea. Very few live in accordance with it. Someone can say they value growth, but do they read, reflect, experiment, or improve daily? Someone can say they value honesty, but do they tell you the truth when it's inconvenient? Someone can say they value respect, but do they respect your time, your boundaries, your silence? Agreement lives in the mouth. Alignment lives in the behavior. To attract aligned people, you must first become aligned within yourself. If your actions contradict your values, you will attract people who also live in contradiction. Once you start living your principles consistently, integrity, curiosity, humility, responsibility, patience, you naturally filter out those who can't exist in that environment. Your clarity becomes a boundary. Your standards become a shield. You stop arguing with people who operate from a different paradigm because you realize the gap isn't disagreement, it's misalignment. Alignment also requires letting go of people who may care about you but move in the opposite direction. This is hard because emotional attachment often hides misalignment, but caring for someone doesn't automatically make them compatible with your growth. You can appreciate someone and still recognize that they cannot walk the same path. Letting them go isn't betrayal, it's self-preservation. Your future depends on who walks beside you, not who stands behind you. When you choose alignment over agreement, your relationships become cleaner, calmer, and more meaningful. There is less drama, less confusion, fewer misunderstandings. You spend more time building and less time repairing. You give more trust and take fewer emotional hits. Life becomes less about convincing others and more about walking with people already headed where you're going. Agreement might feel good in the moment, but alignment transforms your life. Alignment gives you momentum. Alignment gives you peace. Alignment gives you the right people who don't just support your choices, but support your evolution. And when you surround yourself with aligned minds, your own mind becomes clearer, sharper, and stronger. That is when growth becomes inevitable. Protecting your time like a billionaire begins with understanding that time is the only resource you can never earn back. Money can be made, lost, and remade. Opportunities come and go. Skills can be learned, forgotten, and relearned. But every hour that passes is gone forever. This is why the wealthiest, calmest, and most independent people in the world guard their time with a seriousness that others reserve for guarding their money. They know that the person who controls their time controls their life. And the person who wastes it gives away pieces of their future without realizing the cost. Most people behave as if time is abundant and money is scarce. Billionaires behave as if time is scarce and money is abundant. This shift in mindset is everything. It changes the way you make decisions, the people you keep close, the work you choose, and the way you structure your days. When you understand the true value of an hour, you stop letting others steal it with trivial conversations, unnecessary drama, or obligations that don't align with your growth. Protecting your time doesn't mean you become cold or selfish. It means you become intentional. Every moment you spend is an investment. You are either investing in your future or paying a hidden tax to someone else's priorities. When you are careless with your time, the world will happily consume it because there is always someone who wants your attention more than you want your own focus. And if you don't set boundaries, people who value their own convenience more than your peace will fill your calendar with their noise. Time protection begins with clarity. You must know what matters to you. When you have a clear mission, it becomes obvious which commitments are meaningful and which are distractions. The clearer your direction, the easier it is to say no. Most people struggle with boundaries because they don't have a vision strong enough to anchor their decisions. Without a purpose, every opportunity feels urgent and every request feels important. But once you know where you're going, the wrong paths lose their temptation. One of the biggest ways people lose time is through relationships that drain more than they give. Some people are emotional black holes. They pull you into their crises, their dramas, and their anxieties. They demand attention constantly, but rarely offer support, clarity, or inspiration. Protecting your time like a billionaire means recognizing that not everyone deserves access to your mind. It is not your duty to entertain, fix, or emotionally babysit people who refuse to grow. Your time is too valuable, and your energy is too limited to be spent on relationships that leave you empty. Another subtle time thief is saying yes too quickly. Every yes is a promise. It ties your future self to an obligation your present self casually agreed to. Successful people are slow to commit and quick to exit commitments that no longer align. They understand that every yes disrupts dozens of future hours. It is far easier to avoid unnecessary obligations than to escape them later. The world rewards people who are selective with their time because selectivity creates focus, and focus creates extraordinary results. Protecting your time also means embracing solitude. Silence is not isolation, it is recalibration. Time alone allows your mind to reset, your intuition to speak, and your creativity to breathe. Many people fear solitude because they associate it with loneliness, but solitude is a luxury. The busiest, richest, and most productive people carve out uninterrupted time for thinking because thinking is the source of breakthroughs. You cannot produce anything valuable if your mind is constantly buzzing with interruptions. The real challenge of protecting your time is not managing your schedule, it is managing your boundaries. How you allow people to treat your time teaches them how to treat you. When you respond instantly to every message, you teach people that you are always available. When you say yes to things you don't want, you teach people that your priorities are negotiable. When you refuse to set limits, you teach people that your time is free. But when you guard your time with intention, you signal self-respect. You signal purpose, you attract people who operate with the same discipline. Ultimately, protecting your time like a billionaire is not about earning billions, it's about thinking like someone who values their life fully. It means recognizing that time is your most precious asset and treating it accordingly. When you master your time, you master your life. And once you master your life, everything else, success, clarity, wealth, peace follows naturally.